The market square was alive with noise. Metal cages lined both sides of the dusty road, filled with frightened faces and tired bodies. Creatures from many worlds shouted prices, waved tokens, and argued over who was strong enough, who was beautiful enough, who was skilled enough to be bought. The air smelled of oil, sweat, and despair. At the far end of the square, a small platform stood raised above the crowd. It was the auction block, and every pair of eyes turned there when the guards brought out the next one to be sold. A girl was dragged forward. She was thin, her clothes torn, her skin bruised. Her alien features, strange eyes, faint glowing marks on her cheeks made her look different. But there was no wonder in the way people stared. Only disgust. "Worthless!" one merchant shouted. "Sold for nothing!" laughed another. The crowd jeered. Some turned away in boredom. Others threw scraps of food at her feet as if mocking an animal. The auctioneer banged his staff. "Lot number 23. Weak, untrained, no record of work. Damaged goods. Start the bid." Silence followed. Nobody raised a hand. The girl's heart sank. Her people had already abandoned her, and now even strangers judged her the same way. She stood still, head lowered, wishing the ground would swallow her. She had been told many times before that she had no value. Now the whole market was proving it. The auctioneer tried again, voice louder. "Come now, someone must want her. A helper for cleaning, perhaps. She eats little, takes up no space. 1 token only." Still no answer. The crowd began to laugh. The sound echoed in the girl's ears. Her hands shook, but she clenched them tight, forcing herself not to cry. Tears would only give them more reason to laugh. At that moment, a tall figure stepped out of the shadows near the edge of the crowd. His clothes were plain but well kept. A human, rare in these parts. His eyes were calm yet sharp, scanning the stage as if he saw something others could not. He watched the girl closely. She did not notice him at first. Her gaze was fixed on the ground. But when she finally lifted her head, her eyes met his for a brief second. Something flickered there, pity, curiosity, she could not tell. The human raised his hand. "I'll take her." The crowd gasped. Some laughed harder, others shook their heads. "Why waste your money on that one?" A trader sneered. "She's broken," said another. "Even if she was free, she isn't worth the trouble." The auctioneer blinked in surprise but quickly smiled. "Sold, to the human, for 1 token." He slammed his staff down, ending the bidding that had never truly begun. The girl's body went cold, sold again like an object. She expected this man would use her, throw her away, or sell her to someone else. That was what always happened. But the human walked forward, ignoring the whispers around him. He handed the auctioneer the token, then stepped onto the platform. Up close, his presence felt different, steady, solid, not mocking like the others. He looked at the girl, not with contempt, but with strange seriousness. "Come," he said quietly. The guard shoved her toward him. She stumbled, but he caught her arm before she fell. The touch was firm, not cruel. She stared at him, confused. The human did not speak further. He simply guided her off the platform, leading her through the jeering crowd. People laughed, shouted insults, and even spat in their direction. But he did not react. His steps were calm, steady, as if none of it mattered. The girl glanced up at him, unsure what to think. Why would anyone choose her? Why would a human, of all people, pay even a single coin for someone everyone else had called worthless? Her mind spun with questions. Fear mixed with fragile hope, though she tried to push it away. Hope was dangerous. Hope always ended in pain. When they reached the edge of the square, the noise of the auction faded behind them. For the first time that day, she felt air that was not filled with mockery. She dared to whisper, her voice trembling. Why did you choose me?" The human stopped. For a moment he said nothing, then he looked down at her, his eyes holding a depth she could not understand. "Because I see something they don't," he answered. The girl froze. His words echoed in her mind. Something they don't? What could he possibly mean before she could ask again? The human turned and continued walking, leaving her with only his answer, and the first spark of mystery that might change her life forever. The road beyond the market was quieter, but the alien girl's heart was not. Her feet moved slowly, almost refusing to follow, yet the human's steady pace pulled her forward. She still could not believe someone had bought her. The word bought itself felt heavy, another chain around her neck. She had been told many times. Before that she was useless, broken, worth less than a handful of scraps. Now this man had paid only a single coin for her. Was that all she was? A bargain? A joke for the crowd? The human, however, walked without looking back. His tall figure cut through the evening light, his boots crunching on the gravel road. He carried no whip, no chain, no cruel smile. Only silence. Finally, she whispered, "Master, what will you do with me?" The human slowed but did not stop. "Don't call me that," he said firmly. Her head snapped up in surprise. No one had ever refused such a title before. "But you own me now," she said carefully, afraid of angering him. He looked at her then, his eyes sharp but not cruel. "No, I don't own you. You're not an object. You'll walk with me as long as you choose to." The girl almost laughed, but the sound stuck in her throat. As long as I choose? No one had ever given her a choice before. It had always been orders, chains, and punishment. She wanted to believe his words, but the weight of years pressed down on her. Still, his tone carried no lies. They reached the edge of the town, where a small ship waited on a landing pad. Its hull was scratched, its engines old, but it looked strong enough to travel the stars. The human motioned toward the ramp. "Come." She hesitated. Her instincts screamed that stepping onto his ship meant leaving behind the last chance of escape. Yet what did she have left here? If she stayed, the crowd would laugh again. If she tried to run, she would be caught and sold once more. Slowly, she climbed the ramp. Inside, the ship felt strangely alive. The faint hum of power vibrated under her feet. The walls were lined with simple equipment, tools, and a few strange symbols she did not recognize. It was not fancy, but it was clean. The human pressed a button and the ramp closed behind them. The engines roared, lifting the ship into the sky. She sat quietly on a metal bench, clutching her hands together, eyes fixed on the floor. After a while, the human placed a small tray in front of her. On it was food, simple bread, a bowl of broth, and a metal cup of water. Her stomach tightened painfully. She had not eaten in 2 days, but she stared at the tray with suspicion. "Is this a test?" she asked. The man tilted his head. "It's dinner." Her fingers trembled as she picked up the bread. She half expected him to snatch it away, to laugh at her hunger, but he only turned back to the controls of the ship, leaving her in peace. When she finally took a bite, warm tears surprised her. The bread was plain, but it felt like a treasure. "Why?" she asked again between bites. "Why me? Everyone said I was worthless. Even my own people gave up on me. Why did you choose me?" The human did not answer right away. His hands moved across the controls, guiding the ship into open space. Stars spread like diamonds outside the window. Finally, he said, "Because worth is not given by others. It's found within. And sometimes, it only takes one person to see it." His words struck deep, but they also scared her. Could he really mean it? Or was this another trick, one she had not yet understood? She looked down at her hands, scarred and bruised. What worth could he possibly see in me? The silence between them grew heavy, broken only by the hum of the engines. She wanted to ask more, but fear kept her quiet. Then, suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the cabin. The girl jumped, dropping the cup of water. The human's face hardened. Pirates, he muttered. Her heart pounded. Through the window, dark ships appeared, closing in fast. Symbols painted on their hulls marked them as raiders, hunters of the weak. They must have followed from the market, he said quickly, adjusting the controls. They think I bought you to sell somewhere else. Now they want to take you. The girl's chest tightened. Fear burned through her. If the pirates caught them, she knew what fate awaited. Chains, cruelty, or worse. The human rose from his seat, his movements calm but sharp. He pulled a weapon from the wall and checked its charge. Then he looked at her, his voice steady. Stay here. No matter what happens, don't lose hope. Her eyes widened. He was going to fight them. For her. But why? The ship shook violently as the first pirate blast struck its hull. Sirens screamed louder. The girl clutched the bench, her body trembling. For the first time in her life, someone was risking everything. Not to use her, not to mock her, but to protect her. And she could not understand why. Cliffhanger. The ship jolted again, the lights flickered, and the human prepared to face the danger alone. The ship trembled as enemy fire rained down. Metal groaned under the pressure, sparks flickered across the control panels. The girl clung tightly to the seat, her heart beating so fast it felt like it might burst. She had lived in fear before, but this was different. This time her life was tied to the choices of a human she barely knew. The man moved with a calmness that unsettled her. He was not panicking, not shouting. His hands glided over the ship's systems, pressing switches, adjusting the thrusters. When another blast struck the hull, shaking the entire vessel, he only muttered, "Hold together, old friend," as if speaking to the ship itself. Through the front window, the pirate ships grew closer. Their jagged hulls gleamed in the starlight. Weapons glowing red, they were faster, stronger, and outnumbered him 3-1. The girl's voice broke. "We cannot escape. They will take me. They will kill you." The human glanced at her. "Not today." He slammed a lever forward. The ship dove sharply, engines screaming. The sudden drop threw her off balance. She cried out, but he steadied her with one hand before focusing back on the controls. Laser fire flashed past them, narrowly missing. The stars blurred as the human twisted the ship through sharp turns, weaving between asteroids that drifted like silent giants in the dark. The pirates followed, their weapons blazing. The girl's nails dug into her palms. She wanted to close her eyes to give in to terror, but each time she looked at him, she saw something strange, determination. He was not fighting only to save himself. He was fighting for her. "Why?" she whispered again, though her voice was lost in the roar of engines. The human activated the defense turret. With a swift motion, he handed her a control stick attached to the chair beside her. "Hold this," he commanded. Her eyes widened. "Me? No, I cannot." "You can," he interrupted firmly. His gaze locked onto hers, steady and unshaken. "Listen, when I say fire, press the trigger, that's all, trust me." Her hands trembled as she grasped the stick. It felt heavy, unfamiliar. She had never been trusted with anything before, not even her own life. Now he was asking her to control a weapon. Another blast hit, making alarms wail. The human gritted his teeth and pulled the ship into a spin. "Now!" he shouted. She pressed the trigger. The turret roared, sending bursts of energy across space. To her shock, one of the pirate ships swerved violently, its wings scorched by the sudden fire. "You, see?" he said quickly, pulling the ship into a sharp climb. "You're not useless, you're part of this fight." The words struck deeper than any weapon. She had always been told she was worthless, unfit, a burden. Now, in the middle of danger, a human declared the opposite. She fired again, this time steadier. Another pirate ship veered off course, smoke trailing behind it. The girl gasped. For the first time she felt a flicker of strength within herself, but the battle was far from over. The largest pirate vessel closed in, its cannons charging. The human cursed under his breath and tightened his grip on the controls. "Brace yourself." A thunderous blast struck their ship. The hull screamed, lights flickered, and systems sparked. The girl was thrown forward, barely catching herself. Warning alarms filled the cabin. The human checked the panels quickly. Shields are failing. Engines won't last another hit. Fear surged in her chest. Then, we will die? He turned to her, calm even as smoke filled the air. Not if we fight together. Her breath caught. The way he said it, so certain, so unshaken, ignited something inside her. She tightened her grip on the control stick, nodding. Tell me what to do. His lips curved into the faintest smile. That's the spirit. He guided the ship toward a cluster of massive asteroids. The pirates chased, their weapons glowing, brighter. We'll use the rocks for cover, he explained quickly. I'll fly, you fire when they show themselves. Her body trembled, but she nodded again. She aimed the turret, waiting. Her heart raced with fear, yet also with something new, purpose. The ship darted between asteroids, metal scraping dangerously close. Pirate vessels followed, but every time they emerged, she fired. Bolts of energy lit the darkness, striking their hulls, forcing them back. For a brief moment it worked. She felt the impossible thrill of pushing the enemy away. But then the largest pirate ship surged forward, breaking through the field with unstoppable force. Its cannons glowed, charging for a final devastating strike. The human cursed. Too close, we can't dodge this one. The girl froze, her hand locked on the trigger. What do we do? He looked at her, eyes fierce and unyielding. We make them believe you're not worthless. Before she could answer, the enemy cannon fired. A blinding beam of energy streaked toward them. The girl screamed, pressing the trigger with all her strength. Her shot flew out at the same instant. The screen filled with light as the two blasts collided. The ship shook violently, alarm screaming, and the girl's vision blurred. When the smoke cleared, she gasped. The pirate ship was still there, damaged but not destroyed. Their own ship, however, was burning. Systems failed one by one. The human slammed the emergency controls. Hold on, he shouted. The girl clutched the seat, her breath caught in her throat. The ship spun out of control, flames licking its side, plunging toward the surface of a barren planet below. Cliffhanger. The ground rushed up fast. Would they survive the crash? Or was this the end of their fragile beginning? The ship hit the planet's surface like a falling star. The ground shook, dust exploded into the air, and metal screeched as it tore across the barren land. Inside, alarms screamed until sparks cut them short. The girl clung to her seat with all her strength, eyes shut tight, heart pounding so loudly she could not hear anything else. Then, silence. The ship lay broken in a shallow crater, smoke rising from its ruined engines. The girl's hands trembled as she opened her eyes. She was alive. Somehow, against all odds, she was alive. Are you hurt? The human's voice came from her side. She turned and saw him. His forehead was cut, blood trailing down his temple, but his eyes were steady. He was already unbuckling her restraints, moving with purpose despite the pain. I don't know, she whispered. Her body shook, but when he pulled her gently to her feet, she found she could still stand. The ship's hull groaned. Fire licked along the wall, and smoke thickened. The air smelled of burning metal and scorched wires. We can't stay here, he said firmly. The pirates will track us. We need cover. She followed him out of the broken hatch. The planet's surface stretched endlessly around them. Dry, cracked earth under a pale sky, sharp ridges of stone rising in the distance. No trees, no rivers, no signs of life. Only silence. Her legs wobbled as she stumbled after him. Every breath scraped her throat with dust. She wanted to collapse, to give up. But when she looked at him, walking steadily, carrying a small pack, salvaged from the wreck, she forced herself to keep moving. Hours seemed to pass as they walked across the wasteland. Her mind whispered old words again and again. Worthless, useless, weak. Yet each time her steps slowed, he glanced back, waiting for her, refusing to leave her behind. Finally, they reached a cluster of jagged rocks rising from the plain. The human led her into the shadows between them. Here, at least, they were hidden from the sky. He dropped the pack, pulling out a small metal device. With a flick, a dim blue flame lit, pushing back the darkness. The girl collapsed onto the ground, exhaustion swallowing her. She curled her arms around her knees, staring at the dirt. "Why do you keep helping me?" she asked in a broken voice. "I am nothing. Even if we live, I am nothing." The human crouched in front of her, eyes meeting hers. "They told you that," he said. "Not me. And not the truth." She shook her head. "I cannot fight. I cannot build. I have no skills. What worth do I have?" "You stood at the turret," he reminded her. "You fought beside me when you could have hidden. That alone makes you worth more than they ever saw." His words pressed against the cracks in her heart. She wanted to believe him, but doubt was a heavy chain. She lowered her gaze again. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed through the rocks. A low growl, rough and chilling. The girl froze. Her glowing marks flickered faintly, betraying her fear. The human's hand moved instantly to the weapon at his side. He rose slowly, scanning the shadows. "We're not alone." From the darkness beyond the flame, shapes began to move. Eyes glowed faint yellow, reflecting the light. One by one, creatures crawled into view. Thin, sharp-limbed beasts with jaws that clicked in hunger. Their bodies were stretched and starved, yet their movements were fast, too fast. The girl's breath caught. "What are they?" "Scavengers," the human said quietly. "They smell weakness. They'll test us." The creatures hissed, circling closer. The girl's body locked with terror. She had no weapon, no strength. Her old chains of fear returned, louder than ever. The human stood tall, weapon raised. "Stay behind me," he ordered. The first beast lunged. His shot struck it mid-air, dropping it instantly. But more followed, their growls rising in frenzy. The girl screamed, stumbling back as claws scraped the ground near her feet. The human fought fiercely, blasting one after another, but the swarm pressed harder. Their numbers were too many. He shouted over the chaos, "Find a rock, use it, don't just hide, fight!" Her heart raced. A rock? Could she fight with her bare hands? Every voice inside screamed that she could not. She was worthless, weak, powerless. But then she saw him, bleeding, surrounded yet refusing to give up. He was fighting for both of them. Her trembling hand closed around a jagged stone. When a creature lunged at her, she swung with all the strength she had. The rock struck its skull. The beast shrieked and fell, twitching, her chest heaved. She had done it. Another came, and again, she swung. Her arms shook with fear, but each strike grew steadier. The voices in her head still whispered weakness, but now another voice joined them. The humans, telling her she was more than they believed. Finally, the last creature fell, the silence broken only by the crackle of the flame and their heavy breaths. The girl collapsed, shaking. Blood smeared her hands from the stone, her body trembling with shock. She looked at him wide-eyed. I fought." He lowered his weapon, nodding slowly. "Yes, and you survived." Tears welled in her eyes. Not of fear this time, but something else. She was still trembling, but inside, a tiny spark of strength glowed. The human sat beside her, his voice quiet. "This world is trying to tell you the same lie they did. That you're nothing. But you proved them wrong tonight." Before she could answer, a sharp sound cut through the air. A whistle, mechanical and piercing. The human's head snapped up, eyes narrowing. From above the rocks, a shadow passed across. The pale sky, a ship not theirs. The girl's stomach twisted. If it was the pirates, they were already found. The dark vessel lowered into the rocky plain, its engines roaring as clouds of dust and smoke swallowed the sky. The girl's breath caught in her throat. She gripped the human's arm tightly, her glowing marks flickering with fear. "Is it the pirates?" she whispered. The human kept his eyes fixed on the ship, his body tense but steady. "We'll know soon," he answered. He pushed her gently behind a jagged boulder, then raised his weapon. The vessel landed with a deep thud. Its ramp lowered, slowly, metal grinding against the stone. The girl's heart pounded. Any second, armed raiders might rush out. She prepared herself for chains, for mocking laughter, for the same nightmare to begin again. But when the figures stepped down, they were not pirates. Their armor was polished, their movements disciplined, their weapons carried with military precision. The girl gasped. Soldiers, not raiders. The human's eyes narrowed. He lowered his weapon slightly but did not relax. Not soldiers. Mercenaries. The group spread out across the rocks. At their front walked a tall man in black armor with a scarred face. His eyes scanned the wrecked landscape, then locked on the human's position. You, he called out, his voice rough. We saw your crash from orbit. Quite a landing. His gaze flicked toward the girl who tried to hide deeper behind the boulder. And you have something valuable. Her stomach twisted. Valuable? A cruel laugh almost escaped her lips. She had been called worthless her entire life. Now this stranger claimed she was worth something, though his tone suggested it was not. For her good. The human stepped forward, weapon still in his hand. She's not for sale, he said coldly. The scarred leader smiled thinly. Everything has a price. You think she's just a girl? She carries blood worth more than fleets. The marks on her skin, they're not decoration. They're genetic keys, old secrets locked away in her people's bloodline. The girl froze. Her hands rose unconsciously to her glowing marks. No, that's not true, she whispered. Her people had mocked her, called her broken. Could she really hold something powerful inside her? The mercenary's voice grew sharper. She is a key human, to weapons, to lost technology, to riches, beyond counting. Do you even understand what you've picked up for one token? The human's eyes flickered with realization, but his stance remained firm. Even if it's true, she's not your key to take. The mercenary laughed. His soldiers tightened their grip on their rifles. Do not play the hero. Hand her over, and we let you live. Resist, and both of you die here. The girl's knees weakened. A key? Bloodline? Her mind spun. If this man was right, then maybe her people had not called her worthless because she was weak, but because they feared her. Maybe she was dangerous. Maybe she really was broken, not because she was nothing, but because she carried something they did not want. The human sensed her fear. He glanced back at her, his expression steady. Don't listen to him, he said. Whatever secrets you hold, they don't change who you are. Tears burned her eyes. She whispered, but what if I am dangerous? What if I really am? Different? He shook his head firmly. Different doesn't mean worthless, it means rare. And sometimes rare means important. Before she could answer, the mercenary raised his hand. His soldiers stepped forward, weapons pointed. The human aimed his blaster. Stay behind me, he told her quietly. Her voice broke. You'll die fighting them. Then I'll die, knowing I didn't hand you to wolves. He replied without hesitation. The words struck her harder than any blow. All her life, people had been ready to give her away, to sell her, to trade her for scraps. And now this human, someone who had bought her for almost nothing, was willing to risk his life to protect her. The mercenaries advanced. The leader smirked. So be it. Kill the man. Take the girl alive. The girl's breath caught. Chains, cages, cruelty. She could already feel them closing around her again. But then, something stirred deep inside her chest. A faint pulse, hot and sharp, spreading through her blood. Her glowing marks flared brighter than before, lighting the shadows. The soldiers froze for a moment. The mercenary's smirk faded slightly. So it's true, he muttered. The human glanced at her, his eyes widening. But instead of fear, there was only recognition. It's starting, he whispered. Her body shook as energy coursed through her veins. She had no idea what was happening. For the first time, she was not powerless, but neither was she in control. The mercenaries stepped back in caution, weapons still aimed. but hesitation flickering in their eyes. The girl's voice trembled. What is happening to me? The human met her gaze, his voice calm even in the storm. The truth. The thing they tried to bury in you. The reason they called you worthless. Because they feared you'd discover this. The glow from her marks grew brighter, painting the rocks in pale light. Energy sparked across her hands like lightning searching for release. The mercenary leader shouted, "Take her! Now!" The girl screamed as the energy burst outward, a wave of raw force slamming across the rocks. Dust and stone exploded into the air. Soldiers were thrown back like leaves in the wind, weapons scattering. The scarred leader barely managed to shield, himself behind a metal plate. When the dust cleared, the girl collapsed to her knees, panting, her marks still glowing faintly. The mercenaries lay stunned, groaning on the ground. The human rushed to her side, steadying her as she trembled. "You're not broken," he whispered. "You're powerful." Her eyes widened in shock, fear, and something new. Hope. But above them, the mercenary leader rose slowly, fury burning in his eyes. "So the legends were true," he growled. "And now I will take that power, even if I must tear it from her veins." Cliffhanger. With the enemy still standing, stronger than before, the girl's new power may be the only thing keeping them alive. But can she control it, or will it destroy them both? The dust still hung in the air when the girl collapsed against the human's arm. Her glowing marks flickered weakly, like fading stars. Her chest rose and fell in heavy breaths, every part of her trembling. She had no idea how she had released that power. The human crouched beside her, steadying her shoulders. "Breathe. Don't fight it. Let it calm." Her lips shook. I didn't mean to. I thought I would die." "You didn't die," he said firmly. His eyes locked onto hers, clear and unshaken. "You saved us." Before she could answer, the sound of scraping metal echoed across the rocks. The mercenary leader rose from the rubble, dust falling from his armor. His scarred face twisted with fury. "You don't even understand what you are," he growled at the girl. "And yet you wasted on protecting him." He spat the word like poison, pointing at the human. "Hand her to me, human, and I'll let you live." The human raised his blaster again, his stance steady. "You'll never touch her." The girl's voice cracked. "He'll kill you." The human shook his head slightly. "Then I'll die doing what's right." The mercenary leader laughed coldly. He drew a massive blade from his back, its edge glowing with plasma energy. His soldiers, though injured, began to push themselves up as well, weapons sparking back to life. The girl's body froze. Her marks glowed faintly, but the surge of energy had left her weak. She could not summon it again. Not yet. She gripped the human's sleeve. "We cannot win." He leaned close, his voice quiet but firm. "Worth is not proven in winning or losing. It's proven in standing when others expect you to fall." His words struck deep. For so long, she had accepted what others told her, that she was worthless, broken, unwanted. But this human refused to let her believe it. The mercenaries advanced, ready to strike. Suddenly, the air filled with a sharp sound. A signal, high-pitched, metallic, echoing through the barren land. The mercenaries froze for a moment, turning their heads. From the horizon, faint lights appeared, ships flying low. The human's eyes narrowed. Not more of them. But as the ships drew closer, their markings became clear. Not pirates, not mercenaries. Refugee vessels patched together, slow, weak. They descended shakily toward the rocky plain. The mercenary leader cursed. "Perfect. More rats crawling from the shadows." The girl's breath caught. She could sense it, the desperation of those ships. Refugees fleeing something worse, hoping to find safety on this barren planet.